social media promised a better way to keep us connected.
To give people the power to build community, to bring the world closer together.
Pizzagate conspiracy.
But today, it's also being harnessed as a tool for gaining power and silencing critics by spreading lies masquerading as the truth.
With all this,
In one country, on the eve of a critical election, the weaponization of social media put the foundation of its democracy to the test.
Kakapal ang mukha ninyo, kayong taga-media.
Make sure Maria Ressa gets publicly raped to death when martial law expands. I was getting 90 hate messages per hour. I just realized that this is the new weapon.
And the results are raising alarms.
That's the way they work.
It's a cultural thing that discretion is not one of our many traits. Facebook just made the spread of gossip faster.
And some warn the United States could be next.
This is not just about journalism. This is an existential moment. If nothing changes, we will lose democracies. Let's do her at right after Gus, so like 8 o'clock. You know, my longest relationship aside from my parents is with journalism. I made choices in my life, decided not to have kids because every big story always broke. When it breaks, it has an impact on the choices I make in my life. And that, ironically, has made me better in terms of fighting where we are today.
Maria Ressa is a veteran journalist and citizen of both the US and the Philippines. She's now based in Manila, where she runs Rappler, a news site that promotes itself as an alternative to the country's mainstream news outlets.
So this office has the feel of like a rebel headquarters of some sort. There's just like this youthful energy here.
So what's the schedule?
When she launched Rappler in 2012, social media was key to getting the site off the ground.
The reason I came home is because in this society, there's so much that can be done. And we, as a group, had decided that we were working for impact. Social media for social good. We drank the Kool-Aid. We helped spread both Twitter and Facebook. You know, all of our platforms were around that, and we grew tremendously.
Today, Rappler has a staff of 100 and nearly 4 million subscribers on Facebook.
Guys, I'm gonna go up on Plus. Okay, ladies, you're right behind me, okay?
Are we pretty enough?
You have to look smart enough. Don't ask me that one. We're 30 minutes before we go live.
We saw how we could use social media, and this technology can enable groups of people to come together and to actually create things bottom up. That was the dream. And we succeeded for the first, I would say, 5 years or so. The 6th year was when social media was weaponized.
In 2016, the use of social media began to shift with the presidential campaign of Rodrigo Duterte, a longtime mayor of the Philippines' most violent municipality.
Don't just throw away questions and statements. Putang ina, mumurahin kita dyan sa forum na yan.
Duterte's tough talk and unpolished style went viral on social media. And once he was elected in May 2016, he harnessed the platform again. Social networks then became one of the most important vehicles to selling the Filipino public on a highly controversial program.
Duterte is following through on his campaign promise to purge the Philippines of illegal drug use.
Under Duterte, so-called death squads targeted drug dealers and users, and he encouraged them to shoot suspects on sight.
My campaign against drug will not stop until the last pusher and the last drug lord are...
But as international media and sites like Rappler reported on the human rights abuses, the government sought to hide the casualties from the public.
We were just keeping track of what the government itself was saying, what the police was saying about the death toll. Because at some point, after they released 7,000 people killed, they realized, oh my gosh, that's a lot of people. And they dropped the number to like 2,000 plus.
The death toll was rising rapidly, as high as 27,000, according to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. In addition to discrediting coverage of the killings, the government made it harder to see the bodies.
At the height of the drug war in 2016, dead bodies would be found in the streets. The public would see them, the media would see and report, and splash the headlines into the papers and onto the newscast the next day. You don't see that anymore because the government caught on that they had a pretty big PR problem on its hands. What happens now is these bodies, when they're summarily executed by police, they're scooped up, brought to funeral parlors like this. It's kind of sight unseen.
Oh my God. This is one more casualty in the drug war that still continues to rage on.
There's a certain level of disbelief that so many tens of thousands of people have actually died at the hands of police because the government has done a pretty good job of sowing some seeds of doubt into the minds of people. Despite the fact that many people are dying every day, many people just don't see it.
As the national press slowed its coverage of the drug war, Rapplers continued. And as Duterte's government grew frustrated by Rappler's persistence, a backlash on social media began to swell.
Well, you know, we kept track of everything online, and they blamed us for this and attacked us for it. We were repeatedly attacked, both online and in the real world. I was getting 90 hate messages per hour. I just realized that this is the new weapon. Maybe Maria Ressa's dream is to become the ultimate porn star in a gangbang scene.
Oh my God.
You know, it's not, but then him, and then this came out on Rappler's Facebook page. Me to the RP government, make sure Maria Ressa gets publicly raped to death when martial law expands to Luzon. It would bring joy in my heart.
Maria says that she had a hunch that the attacks were being orchestrated, and when her staff started looking into it, they uncovered a hidden network across social media platforms.
We found disinformation networks and began putting it in a database. And at the beginning, all they did was astroturf first on social media, then government comes down. Those were the attacks against Rappler.
Astroturfing is an organized campaign designed to look like spontaneous grassroots uprising. Individuals, sometimes even fake accounts, pushing a carefully crafted message on social media. Once it's saturated the platform, it's then repeated by blogs and media outlets sympathetic to the current government. Finally, once it's taken hold in the public, the government will begin sharing it on social media, or even stating it as an official talking point.
Astroturfing creates a bandwagon effect, right?
Lay the groundwork, give it 6 months to sort of metastasize.
Constant attack, and then the Manila Times brings it to traditional media, and then the president says it. That's the way they work.
For disinformation campaigns to work effectively, Maria says it's crucial that the public has already been primed to doubt the facts, in particular, from the media.
This is Timothy Snyder on tyranny. If you want to rip the heart out of a democracy, you go after facts. That's what modern authoritarians do. Step 1, you lie all the time. Step 2, you say it's your opponents and the journalists who lie. Step 3, everyone looks around and says, what is truth? There is no truth. Then resistance is impossible and the game is over, right? Make people doubt what the facts are so that you don't know what truth is and your trust is eroded.
There's a certain discomfort at the same time in talking about all of this as journalists. Oh, look at Maria and Adam bitching and complaining and whining about the fall of journalism. That looks like people who are just complaining about their profession being under attack. Oh, boo-hoo.
This is not just about journalism. This is an existential moment. And if nothing changes, we will lose democracies. The social media platforms took over the distribution of news, which journalists actually determine what the facts are, and we are held accountable for that. When the new information ecosystem treats a lie and spreads it faster than a fact, we have a problem.
Despite all the controversies surrounding his administration, Duterte's approval ratings have remained high, around 66%. He's claimed that this majority gives him a mandate to change the country and rewrite the Constitution.
So we're coming upon a polling place here on Election Day. This doesn't feel at all like a polling place in the U.S. It feels like, I don't know, it feels festive, like you're going to the county fair or something. It's interesting coming out to this polling center. It's clear that the Filipinos take their elections very, very seriously. Most Filipinos who can vote do vote. It's sort of a national sport. This particular election is a very high-stakes election in that it's largely seen as a referendum on the current president, and his party is expected to sweep, which would mean that one party would control all three branches of government, and that would have massive ramifications for this country.
Filipinos spend an average of 4 hours a day on social media, more than anyone else on the planet. And like a growing number of communities all around the world, the majority here get their news coverage solely from social media, primarily Facebook.
In a way, it's a cultural thing that discretion is not one of our many traits, and gossip is a real pastime.
On the eve of this critical election, local students volunteered to scour Facebook and other platforms for false news stories and report them to the public.
We've realized since 2016 there has been a deliberate effort to undermine the credibility of traditional media, and that effort seems to not only be growing but also has been quite effective in reducing the public's trust. You have these echo chambers that repeat a lot of misinformation and disinformation. Facebook just made it easier. Facebook just made the spread of gossip faster.
To intimidate its critics, the Duterte administration doesn't just rely on the modern tool of social media. It also has traditional institutions of power at its disposal. In February of 2019, Maria was arrested on charges that Rappler wasn't paying all of its taxes.
Another line was crossed tonight. This one now is they want me to feel that I can be imprisoned. Okay, I'm here. But that still doesn't mean that Rappler, or I hope any journalist in the Philippines, will stop telling the truth.
Maria was released on bail, but arrested again a month later on similar charges. To date, she's currently facing 11 different indictments, including not being a citizen, that Rappler is foreign-owned, and for cyber libel, a new law recently passed. Maria and Rappler contend all charges are false and are fighting them in court. When the election was over, the vast majority of candidates backed by Duterte had won, an overwhelming consolidation of power. And some say, proof that his propaganda war had succeeded.
I don't know what's next. The best case scenario is that the government becomes magnanimous in victory and begins to heal the society, stops the information operations happening online. The worst case scenario is that this kind of overwhelming use of information operations to continue to grow power continues.
So help me understand that. Okay, you have a government that has, according to independent reports, killed 27,000 of its very own people in this brutal drug war. That same administration is writing a
wave of popularity that's seen its senatorial candidates sweep the elections. Now you have all three branches of government in the hands of the party that offed 27,000 people. What am I not understanding here? Is it that the general public does not believe that these 27,000 people were offed, or they support it?
I think there's a disconnect. You choose to bury your head and not look at this, the blood. I'll throw this question back at you. Did you think every German was saying it's okay to kill the Jews? It is a gradual process, a gradual normalization of violence. It dehumanizes the people who are the subject of the violence.
American watching this would say, well, who cares? Who cares what's happening in the Philippines? I don't even know where that is. Why should they care?
Because it's happening in your country. I mean, you need to care, because this isn't happening just in the Philippines. We were an American colony for 50 years, the only American colony. And we're a test, literally, products before their launch in the West are tested in the Philippines, especially digital products. And Adam, it is happening to Americans.
In the US, 3 years after the Russian government used Facebook and Twitter to meddle in the 2016 presidential election, experts are trying to anticipate what's next.
So looking forward to this next presidential election, which is just around the corner, what has evolved in the fake news and disinformation landscape that we should be concerned about?
I think people were caught flat-footed by this in 2016 in the US. The platforms were sort of slow to respond to this, right? The government was, not out in front of this. That's not the case right now. Like, everybody's thinking about this. But of course, this is a cat and mouse game, right? And people who have, the people who are producing this information and this kind of disinformation are aware of what's being done and are thinking about are likely thinking about what they can do.
Tucker says disinformation has primarily been based on text, mostly fake articles. But the fake news of tomorrow is video.
Now the doctored video in which she appears to be impaired.
And then he had a press conference in the Rose Garden with all this sort of visuals.
That clip received more than 2.5 million views on Facebook.
We're getting to the point where I can make a video where you say something that you've actually never seen. So if you've seen these they're called deep fakes.
But Tucker worries the real risk is getting distracted by foreign threats.
So much of the attention from what happened in 2016 in the United States has focused on Russia. And so what I worry about is that the legacy of what happened with Russia's interference in 2016 isn't so much as a blueprint for foreign interference in elections, as it is a toolkit that all sorts of domestic actors that have interest in affecting election outcomes can begin to use. So I'm a little bit nervous that this emphasis on preventing foreign interference is going to miss the larger picture.
If there's a silver lining to Rappler's battle with Duterte, it's that they've drawn attention. In the Philippines, Facebook itself took note of Rappler's work on disinformation, and in April 2019, Rappler became an official partner in rooting out fake news. As a result, Facebook has shut down numerous accounts in the Philippines proven to be spreading disinformation. Maria's plight has also given her a wider audience.
Thank you.
And today, she uses it to broadcast a warning.
It's my great pleasure to welcome Maria Ressa to the school, this year's recipient of the Columbia Journalism Award.
I'm short. Thank you. Propaganda has always been around. Everyone will tell you that. But we've never felt it like today because technology has enabled mass manipulation at a scale I could never have imagined. At the heart of all of this destruction are American social media technology platforms. They are now the world's largest distributor of news, allowing lies to spread faster than facts. A virus has been unleashed in this global body politic, and it is slowly killing us. What you do matters. What you report and how you fight for truth matters. Our future now depends on you.
This is not the first time Maria has warned the U.S. She raised red flags about the potential for terror attacks prior to 9/11, as well as the risk of foreign meddling in the 2016 election.
So I'm headed to D.C. My lawyer arrived there yesterday, and we're going through, like, what are the next case option, next step, like 2 or 3 steps ahead, given the existing cases. And what potential new cases can they throw at us? 11 cases. You have lots of lawyers when you have 11 cases. And I think I have the best in the Philippines. Now the next step is, if I get jailed, what are my options? I'm both a Filipino and a U.S. citizen. What are the international law options? You know, worst case scenarios. Sala.
What sort of responsibility do social media platforms hold for where we find ourselves today, where you find yourself today?
No, they broke democracy. I mean, this
social media broke democracy.
Yeah. So look at it, it's a global trend. It's not just happening in the Philippines, it's happening. Social media was the accelerant, and it got worse exponentially. I don't think the world would be in the state it's in, or democracies as crippled. It's like we're imploding from within. You know, the Philippines is a cautionary tale for the United States. The very same things that are happening in the Philippines are happening in the U.S. And the only difference is that institutions in the United States are stronger than in the Philippines. I have a lot to lose in this, but it's a battle worth fighting. You know, the future is bright. We just have to get through this very horrible time, because the tech platforms made a mistake, and we're all suffering for it.